Fernal blessings, back again. As I said, I'm trying to stay consistent and, posting these videos, these 20, 25 minute or so videos while I'm driving, when I'm at the house. I'm going to try to stay consistent with this and keep getting these videos up. So this one I want to talk about, again, what I'm going to do, as I said in these videos, is address a lot of questions and emails I get like I used to do, which I think is the best method for videos like this to stay focused on a topic. Before I do that, make sure I put in the beginning, people always reaching out, what's the best way to take classes, or the classes that I offer. Again, that's Patreon. That's the best thing. Not the best. The main way I do my classes, do 3 private classes a month on Patreon, and 1 group ritual. If you go to patreon.com /Baniti, Baniti, and join tier 3, that gives you access. Oops, camera went upside down. That gives you access to the 3 monthly private classes I do on there, and it gives you access to the monthly ritual. Okay, I do offer mentorship programs. There's different levels, different tiers, but please, for the mentorship programs, only do that if you're really invested in the time to do it. It's work, it's time. That's for those that really want to grow and take their spiritual magic to the next level. Again, mentorship program is not me, Baniti, showing you how you should see or perceive magic through my eyes, or spirituality through my eyes. That's not what the mentorship program is. That's not why it's designed. It's for me to help you see your vision, your path, and to design your own path to self-mastery. That's what it's for. So I just want to make that clear. All right? So again, the best way to take my classes is at the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page at patreon.com /Baniti, Baniti. All right, if you're interested in a spiritual consultation or a reading, reach out to me at khnum19@gmail.com, and I will send you a list of different types of readings I offer. Clepothic demonic readings I do, deity readings to see what spirits walk with you, shadow work readings. As I've said, is a great place to begin if you're not sure what you should be doing, where you should start, things of that nature. Just send me an email and I'll send you an email with all the information you need to book a reading or a consultation. All right, so having said that, this video is going to focus on, do we work with our ancestors on the left-hand path or the occult? This comes up a lot, okay? Is this a practice that's used across the board? Is it an occult / left-hand path practice? Again, there's going to be a difference of opinion on that and different perspectives from different scholars, teachers, elders, practitioners of the path. You will find a combination of both, depending what circles you are moving in. You will find some that don't utilize it at all on any level. You will find some who might utilize it here and there. You will find some who don't even use it at all, period. They don't even use it at all, period, okay? And then you will find some who use it as an established regular practice. You will find that too, okay? I'm in agreement with, I do think it's an important, necessary aspect of this path, and I'm going to explain why. Again, when we're doing videos on topics like this, I can only share with you my practice and how it works for me. Not saying that that's going to definitely work for you in the same way. Well, if you practice vampirism or necromancy, that is a form of working with venerating the dead, not worshiping, veneration, or acknowledging the greatness of your ancestors and those that have transitioned on. I want to make that clear. That's very important to understand. Okay? Or if you're practicing vampirism, there's high levels of respecting, venerating, and honoring those spirits that have transitioned on. If you practice vampirism, whether it's comedic vampirism, traditional vampirism, if you've ever done a vampiric mass rite. There's always the acknowledgement and the veneration of your ancestors and the dead. I'm also along the lines, though not from a traditional perspective. It's very important, in my opinion. It's one of my 3 main pillars or foundations of mastering yourself on this path, which is, and I'm going to be doing probably maybe a video later on demonic integration, but demonic integration, shadow work, and ancestral work. To me, that's the pillars of the foundation of your path to self-mastery. Okay? Now, there are a lot of traditional practices out there, whether it's African spiritual, traditional paths. Other systems have different methods of acknowledging your ancestors. We don't worship. That's why you never heard me or will hear me or heard me in this video say ancestral worship. We don't do that. That, again, is taking us back to a form of religion, of worshiping something outside of ourselves that, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're making the declaration that we're inferior to it. Why you can't worship your ancestors is because the same blood that runs through your veins runs through their veins. You can't worship yourself. It's foolishness. So we do not use the concept or practice of ancestral worship. We do use the practice of ancestral veneration. It's a little bit different, okay? I do encourage practitioners to establish a regular practice or communication with your bloodline and spiritual ancestors. Now, as I've said many times before, not all your ancestors that were here were productive beings. Don't fool yourself. Not all of them were these positive, upliftment, great spiritual beings that you think they all were. They weren't. Unfortunately, some of your ancestors were murderers, killers, drug addicts, alcoholics, possibly child molesters, sexual predators, all of these other things. It's possible to some degree. We all have a level of that in our genealogy. So traditional practice, we don't want to pour libations of alcohol out for an ancestor that could be an alcoholic. Okay? So we don't use that traditional worship system because we are inviting energies and entities into our presence that we may not want there. And they might want to use you as the doorway or the gateway and the vessel to continue feeding off of this realm, an addiction or something else, and you being the vessel. And this is why people talk about trickster spirits and things of that nature, because sometimes you have entities or spirits called specters that have the ability to read your subconscious mind and create illusions or take on the form or manifest looking like, per se, an ancestral spirit. People talk about this all the time, how trickster spirits come in that form when they've done ritual work, etc. You shouldn't really have a problem with this if you're doing your due diligence. I've never had a problem with that. Not because I'm superior or great or better than anybody. It's because I do my due diligence when I am invoking and venerating my ancestors. There's a threefold process of doing that, right? It's calling on the ones that you know that were productive while they were here, and you know them, you had a relationship with them. It's also acknowledging the productive ones that you are not aware of. But the most important part is saying with conviction and passion, those ancestors that are not here for your growth and development are not welcome when you're doing work at your ancestral altar. That keeps those entities and beings out of your spiritual practice and your circle. It's as easy as making a firm, strong, direct command. I wish I could tell you it was something deep and spooky, but it's not. Okay, so if you do that threefold acknowledgement, you are covering all your bases. Now, a good practice I would refer people to that has a good, it's one of the only, well, I want to say it's the only, but it's one of the few books that's straight up left-hand path occult, written by a left-hand path practitioner. You guys have heard me talk about this book many times over the years. Came out in about 2016. Get The Black Ship by Malthus. Malphus. He is the author, The Black Ship by Malthus. Okay. Author's name, his real name is Edward Pandemonium. Actually know him from he was also a former member of the Temple of Set, as I was a few years back. But he has ancestral veneration work from a left-hand path occult perspective in that book. So if you want to establish a non-traditional, not worshiping, But ancestral veneration practice in your spiritual path, that would be my personal recommendation to take a look at if it's something you're interested in. Okay? I would highly suggest you take a look at that. And I think that book as a whole, with other stuff outside of that, there's a lot of great stuff in that book. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot of hard copies of that book circulating. There's a few rare copies that they're charging ridiculous amounts of money for, but it is available 2 ways digitally. Amazon Kindle has it available in a very crisp copy, just like the hard copy, for $8.99. And if you do have the Scribd or the Scribd app, it is available on there for free in its entirety. So I would encourage you to check that book out. So we do venerate our ancestors. It's a practice. I do a brief daily, and then I have a weekly acknowledgement. Now, the other thing that comes up, feeding your ancestors. Now, I've spoken on this before in the past. I'm not big with doing all that traditional stuff. I think a good practice is every equinox to give offerings to your ancestors. So for an example, if you had a grandparent, uncle, auntie, brother, sister, mother, or father, and you knew a certain dish or drink that they like, those are great offerings. Neutral offerings across the board are always rum, hard candy, straight up black coffee with no sugar, no cream, nothing in it, flowers, and obviously water, which is just clear, fresh water, is the best offering you can give to venerate your ancestors. You should always have a solid white candle on that altar. You can have pictures of ancestors that have passed on. You can also write their name down on parchment paper. You should have a representation of earth. My representation of earth on my ancestral altar is the ashes of my father. That's always a great representation. Cemetery dirt. If you can't get any of those, you can use sand from a beach, a park, soil from your backyard. I also have sand from the pyramids in ancient Egypt. You can use sand from a very sacred place. You should have the earth element on there. The candle represents the fire element, and then the incense offering would represent your wind or your air offering. Okay? So the 4 elements need to be on there: earth, air, fire, and water. Now, the fresh water should always be in just a clear glass. It could be something intricate, something nice if you like, but it should be something brand new that humans that are living never drank out of. And it should just be used for your ancestral work. And then you can build around that ancestral altar. The other question that always comes up, can I put deities on my ancestral altar? Only specific ones. I want to be clear on this. Gateway deities can go on your ancestral altar, such as Ampu or Anubis. In Voodoo or Voodoo, say the Samdis like Baron Samdi. You could also put only, when it comes to Santa Muerte, the black aspect of the Holy Death, or Santa Muerte, that can go on there because she also is a gateway deity in that form, and she connects to the spirits of the dead. She connects to a lot of spirits. That's a whole nother story. I'll be doing some videos here and there on Santa Muerte on different things. So yes, gateway spirits or deities can be put on there, but that's it. The altar can be decorated with anything that connects you to the spirit world or the abode of the dead, which is really the abode of the eternal living. I hate to say the dead because it's not, but you know what I mean. You can put skulls on there. You can decorate your altar. Whatever personal comes outside of the basics to get a good functioning ancestral altar, you can be creative from that point. Never put pictures of living people on there, not recommended. People will also ask, what about if I grew up with a adopted brother or sister, or maybe somebody that was raised with me that was a lifelong friend, etc. That's a special case. In that case, they can. Because though there may not be a straight bloodline genetic connection to you there is a spiritual connection. And there's a difference between spiritual ancestors and genetic bloodline ancestors. Because in your ancestral work, you will also uncover spirit guides that walk with you, right? I'll talk about that another time. I ain't going to too much get into that at the moment. Well, I'll briefly touch on it. Sometimes people have Indian spirits that walk with them. Some might in other systems and traditions have African Congo spirits, past life spirits, some what we would term guardian spirits. And this sometimes is revealed through your ritual work, Native American spirit, etc. Any of those can also go on your ancestral altar. You must understand the difference too between ancestral spirits and genetic bloodline spirits, okay? And once you have your altar set up, just establish that regular practice. Again, I refer you to the Black Ship book because there's a good, you can customize the ritual or the practice to suit your needs, but that is a great aspect to use. Now, the feeding part, as I said, with the offerings, I basically only do that the 4 equinoxes. I do that summer, spring, winter, and fall. I don't like to do too much of that because some people get fanatical with it and I think it's overkill. But again, if you have your own practice that works, I'm not going to tell you what you should and should not do. I only do that 4 times a year outside of giving fresh water on a weekly basis, okay? Because water is the greatest conduit or offering you can give to the spirits because it represents life and it's a conductor from this realm to that realm. So always keep fresh, vibrant water on your ancestral altar. Keep it basic. I'm about less is more. I ain't with all that complicated, too much overdrawn shit because people turn that shit into religion. And I ain't about that. I'm done with that shit. I gave that shit up years ago. I don't believe that you got to get fanatical with it. Less is more. Less is more. That's the motto. But again, you decide your path, your practice. I don't tell people what they should and should not do. So you figure that out for yourself. So once you have your altar set up, and the other question is, should I use a black cloth or white? I use a black cloth. I don't use the white because of what black represents. Again, that's personal. If you want to put a white cloth on your ancestral table or altar, that's fine. If you want to use black, white, or I prefer black because I'm working more from an occult left-hand path perspective, and all things have their form out of chaos and darkness. All right, I know what white represents in veneration of the spirit world, but I want to connect on a deeper level. Okay, and contrary to belief, for an example, when you go to ancient Egypt, white was worn to funerals, not black. Black represents eternal life. White represents transition into that eternal light, and that's a whole nother story. But again, you make that decision based on how you see fit. I would recommend a black cloth, and then put your elements and your tools on there. Establish your weekly practice at minimum. I acknowledge my ancestors every morning in addition to my other stuff before I step out of the house every day. And I'm going to do a video on that too, how to establish daily practices and routines. But every morning when I get up, before I depart from the house, I go to my altars. I do something very basic and simple that literally takes a couple of minutes, maybe 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes max. And I do salute and acknowledge and venerate my ancestors in that daily morning practice. And then weekly I do something a little more focused and intent, and then the offering stuff again quarterly. Right? I can only share again with you the methods that work for me. You don't have to agree with that. I'm not telling you to do that way. Maybe it doesn't work for you. Maybe it doesn't resonate with you. Maybe you're not feeling that. You make that choice, that decision. But I don't worship my ancestors, and I don't get fanatical and religious with it. But I do think, to answer that question that people always ask, because a lot of people sometimes leave traditional spiritual paths and come on this path, and they kind of still feel an obligation to do that. I get that. But don't beat yourself up about it. So again, is it necessary? Is it mandatory? No. Do I recommend or suggest it? Yes. Ancestral veneration, not ancestral worship. I want to be clear on that. You need to approach it from a veneration perspective. You are acknowledging the greatness in your genealogy and your DNA. You are not worshiping it. I want to make that clear. And again, if you are on this path, if you practice vampirism, necromancy, there is an aspect of ancestral veneration in those systems. So that's why I said in the beginning of the video, it depends what perspective when working spiritually with your ancestors you're coming from. So that's very important to understand. So from a veneration perspective, most definitely, I recommend it. I suggest it. I think, and I don't want to say I think, I know because it's worked for me and many others. It will strengthen your spiritual power. It will make your connection to this path even stronger. Again, as I said, the 3 foundational principles of how I teach my students in the mentorship program, they must get the 3 pillars of ancestral veneration, of demonic integration work, and shadow work. right? That has to be your foundation. I promise you, if you use that formula, however you see fit, not just the way Baniti's telling you, if you use that formula as your foundation, in whichever way works for you, I promise you, you will accelerate on this path a lot quicker than you can imagine. Okay? And then you build from that foundation from there. That's how this works, right? Now, did I figure this out overnight? Absolutely not. Is this work, like I've said in many previous videos over the years? You better believe it's work. This shit just doesn't happen. Snap your fingers, poof, puff the magic dragon, light a few candles, snack, crackle. What's the fucking cereal? Snap, crackle, pop. No. If it was that easy, folks, people, brothers, sisters, young adults, old adults, kiddies, whatever, if it was that easy, we wouldn't be dialoguing about these things. We wouldn't be having these discussions. We wouldn't be on a quest to continue to search for knowledge. Remember, you're always, what's that old saying? That old wise proverb, always seek knowledge from the grave to China, right? It's a proverb that means never stop learning, never stop seeking, never stop working, because this is a constant work in progress. You don't master the craft of magic by just reading or just sitting back or just doing a couple of rituals and poof, you got it made. Again, if it was that easy, there would be no need for me having this conversation with you guys right now. There would be no need for you to have to read, study, or be on any type of spiritual quest or journey, right? It's something you must do while you are living on this physical realm in your mundane existence. Part of your responsibility while being here is to master yourself to the best of your ability, to prepare yourself for the next phase of your spiritual journey, right? But have fun while you're here too. Indulge, enjoy life, live life to the fullest. As I've said before, an individual that's locked into the death current or ancestral veneration or necromancy, any of those vampirism, has a zest and a love for life and living. Okay, it's the reverse. People always think somebody that's a necromancer or into vampirism or ancestral they must be very gloomy and doomy and very black, dark, horrifying beings. No, it's the complete opposite. Don't believe that shit you read or see on TV and movies and on the internet and in books. It's the complete opposite. I find those who are really locked into necromancy, ancestral veneration, vampiric practice, they have such a joy for life and living. They have a joy and love for and respect their family. They respect, their circle of friends, people around them, and they just find pleasure sometimes in the very simple things in life: a good meal, a sunset, a good workout. Oops, there goes the sorry. A good workout. Just simple pleasures in life that sometimes we may not appreciate when we don't have that zest or that joy, for life and living. So it's the reverse. Being locked into the death current, working with your ancestors, necromancy, is not about gloom and doom, folks. Don't let people bullshit you. Don't listen to people that don't know nothing about this path trying to put negative shit in your head. Don't fuck with that. That's devil worship stuff. It's this, it's that. What are you basing that on? Your fears, the unknown, and what you think it is? Or are you basing them opinions on judgment? Okay? So don't listen to that crap. That message is more so for newer people. You may be new to the path. You might have hesitations because of nonsense that people have put in your head to scare you away from exploring this path of self-mastery. It's a path of liberation and freedom like no other. That's the best thing I can tell you. All right? So, almost time to wrap this up. I'm almost at the house. I'm going to stay with you guys for a couple more minutes. I am one light approaching from entering my, going through my security gate. So yeah, I hopefully this is a good foundational primer. for you to look into, consider, or maybe it gives you more clarity, regardless of what you do. If you never utilize, because I've had people come at me and say I don't do any form of ancestral work, and they're getting productive from what they're telling me. They're getting productive results on the path, and that's fine. So you don't need to go, well, I don't do it and stuff's working for me. Then okay, then leave it alone. If you don't do it and things are working, then hey, power to you. But I can also attest the flip side of that. I know it's taking people to other levels that do utilize it, okay? So I get it. But again, because that question comes up a lot in emails, and people ask, should I do it? Should I not do it? Is it necessary? Is it not? Again, I don't tell people, as I said before, I don't tell people what they should and should not do. That's not my job. If you're a god or a goddess and you're on the path of self-mastery, you got to make that decision for yourself. That's what a god or a goddess does. You can ask for advice. You can ask for possible suggestions, but I don't tell people definitively that you should or you should not do it. I don't do that. I believe you have to come to that realization yourself, okay? You have to come to that realization yourself. So, because this question comes up a lot, ancestral veneration, in my opinion, I strongly suggest it. It's being necessary is personal opinion. If you had to ask me, from my practice, would it be necessary for me? I believe it's necessary for me because I see the benefits and the results. Again, I don't want my words to get twisted. I said necessary for me. I can't say for you or anybody else watching. Okay? Again, the Black Ship book by Malthus, if you're looking for a good occult left-hand path book with ancestral veneration work in it, that's the book. Again, it's available on Kindle for $8.99. It is also free on the Scribd or Scribed app, however you guys, there's two ways to say it. There's only bare minimum hard copies circulating on certain sites. They charge a ridiculous amount. So if you don't have the hard copy and you're looking for a copy, because I get emails, people over the years reaching out the last couple of years, I can't find the book, it's not available. More than likely, you're going to have to get a digital version of it unless you get lucky somehow. I don't know. All right. Having said that, I'm going to leave this video at, look at this one here, backing out. They're not even looking. Not even looking. I'm telling you, man, people. Anyway, that's going to wrap this video up. Again, if you need to reach out to me for a spiritual consultation or a reading, hit me up at khnum19@gmail.com. If you're interested in taking my classes, I would encourage you to go to patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Join Tier 3. That's the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page. Tier 3 gives you access to the 3 classes I do on there a month for Patreon members only, and it gives you access to our group monthly ritual. All right? I appreciate you guys supporting the YouTube channel. Also, check me out on Primordial Chaos 9 on Instagram, Primordial Chaos 2 words on Facebook. I appreciate you guys supporting all the platforms. Infernal blessings, and we'll talk soon.